Honorable members, let us pray. Lord, the God of righteousness and truth, grant to our King and his government, to members of the Legislative Assembly and all in positions of responsibility, the guidance of your Spirit. May they never lead the province wrongly through love of power, desire to please, or unworthy ideals, but laying aside all private interests and prejudices, keep in mind to keep their responsibility to seek to improve the condition of all. Amen. Honorable members, we will now be led in the singing of God Save the King by Pro Coro Canada Choir. I invite all to participate. I can safely say that was extra special. Please be seated.
Introduction of visitors. Introduction of guests.
The Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased today to rise and introduce to you and through you the staff and students from Poplar Ridge School near Sylvan Lake. I would ask them all to rise and please receive the warm welcome of this assembly.
Honourable members, by now you know that we are pleased to have Pro Coro Canada, Edmonton's professional chamber choir, singing God Save the King. Pro Coro was the 2026 winner of the Juno Award for Best Classical Album. And the first choir from Western Canada to win a Juno Award. Please rise and give them just one more round of applause. Edmonton to court.
It's my pleasure, Mr. Speaker, to rise and introduce you and through you to the members of the Assembly. Aziza Ibrahim, my constituency office manager, who does incredible work in Edmonton Decor, and Hairullah Kaglayan, a student, social worker student from Norquist, who's going to spend this summer with us. I ask them to rise and receive the traditional warm welcome.
Minister of Arts, Culture and the Status of Women.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the privilege to rise today to also introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly Edmonton's 2026 Juno Award-winning professional chamber choir, celebrating 45 years this fall, Pro Coro Canada. On April 30th, we released our music action plan, and we're proud to have the support of talented artists from across all genres. One more time, I invite you to please rise and receive the warm welcome.
Been a long time since somebody's been that popular. Edmonton South.
Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to all members of this Assembly, Kevin Joe and Peter Lee. They are avid students of Canadian democracy and are visiting the legislature for the first time. I ask them to rise and please receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Leduc Beaumont.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce to you and through you a frontline paramedic, a volunteer firefighter, a proud resident of Forsberg, my security detail at the UCP AGM, but most importantly, my brother, Nathan Lunty. Please rise and receive the warm welcome of the House.
Red near south. Red near south.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a great day. I'd like to introduce my wife, Jenny Steffen. We've been married for 30 years, and as MLAs, our spouses serve with us and for us as MLAs. So please rise, receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Calgary, Shaw.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know if they've made it in just yet, but to you, through you, and to all members of this Assembly, I'd like to introduce a class from Nariah Christian School from Calgary, Alberta, Principal Darlene Decker, and students Mikkel Mans, Maverick Mans, McKenna Visser, Nate Visser, Ava Van Rokel, Riel Van Rokel, Vera Van Rokel, and their chaperones Fraser Van Rokel and Carl Decker. Please rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Laxing and Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, and I rise to introduce to you and through you Mr. Sandeep Singh Pandir. Sandeep is well known the Bhangra artist who has contributed Punjabi cinema work, production work, and organizing cultural shows here in Edmonton. And that's through his productions company. Can you please rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly?
Calgary East.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to introduce to you and through you Aditya Batra, a dedicated real estate professional and active member of SEWA, meaning Service to Humankind, a non-profit organization supporting families. He continues to make a positive impact through his generosity and commitment. I ask him to rise and receive the warm welcome of the House.
The Minister of Assisted Living and Social Services.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to introduce a school group from River's Edge School in Sundre, Alberta. Mr. Speaker, I had a great visit with them not too long ago. I ask that they rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of this Assembly.
Minister of Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce a group of interns from the Communications and Public Engagement team. These young leaders are gaining valuable experience in public service, and I'm pleased to have them here today. Bradley, Conscious, Kasuni, Riley, and Adele, please rise and accept the warm welcome of the Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Millwoods.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce to you and through you to all members Jayden Allen. Jayden is a second-year social work placement student in my office. He's already learned to assist constituents and helped me thank thousands of healthcare workers for all that they do. Please rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Are there other introductions? Seeing none.
Ministerial statements.
The Honourable, the Premier of Alberta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our neighbour is about to celebrate a birthday. For more than a century, Alberta and the United States have shared one of the most successful and mutually beneficial economic partnerships in the world. Long before Alberta became a province in 1905, our people, industries, and communities were already connected through agriculture, ranching, rail, energy, and trade that existed across the border. Today, that relationship remains foundational to both of our economies. The United States is Alberta's largest trading partner by a very wide margin. In 2025 alone, bilateral trade between Alberta and the United States exceeded $174 billion Canadian, making Alberta the province with the second largest trade relationship with the United States in all of Canada. Alberta exported approximately $152 billion in goods to the United States in 2025, led by energy, agriculture, petrochemicals, forestry products, technology, and manufactured goods. But those numbers represent more than statistics. They represent jobs, integrated supply chains, investment, and families whose livelihoods depend on a strong and predictable cross-border relationship. That commerce creates real prosperity on both sides of the border. According to our analysis, trade with Alberta supports approximately 904,000 American jobs. Energy is at the heart of that partnership. Alberta is one of the United States' most reliable and secure suppliers of energy. Every single day, millions of barrels of Alberta oil move south to American refineries, helping fuel U.S. homes, transportation systems, manufacturers, and industries. In 2025, the U.S. imported nearly 4 million barrels per day of crude oil from Canada, or about 63% of the total U.S. crude oil imports. Almost 90% of all Canadian oil exports to the United States came from Alberta. Alberta alone supplies approximately 4 times more petroleum to the United States than Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Guyana combined. This energy partnership is supported by an extraordinary network of infrastructure. Alberta alone is home to more than 450,000 kilometres or 280,000 miles of pipeline infrastructure, one of the largest integrated energy transportation systems in the world. And we continue to build on that shared infrastructure partnership. Recent presidential permits and approvals for cross-border pipeline infrastructure have reinforced the long-term importance of continental energy security and the strategic role that Alberta plays in supplying responsibly produced energy to the United States. But Alberta's relationship with the United States goes far beyond pipelines and oil. From beef and grains to processed food products, our producers don't compete in isolation. They operate in a highly integrated North American system that depends on open markets, reliable transportation corridors, and common regulatory approaches. A strong agricultural relationship strengthens food security on both sides of the border. And the same is true for forestry and softwood lumber. The United States is a critical market for Alberta's forestry products, supporting jobs in our rural communities while helping to meet strong demand for housing and infrastructure across the country. Stable access to American markets for Canadian lumber supports affordability and supply certainty for U.S. builders and consumers, especially at a time when housing supply remains a shared challenge. The United States is also a top export market for Alberta's agri-food exports, with Alberta exporting $8.7 billion in agri-food products to the United States in 2025 alone, including world-class beef and wheat and canola that help to feed millions of American families. To strengthen those ties even further, Alberta has taken a proactive approach to U.S. engagement and has worked diligently to reduce trade barriers, including allowing American liquor on our shelves. The province maintains a permanent presence across the United States through diplomatic offices in Washington, D.C., Chicago, Dallas, Seattle, and Minneapolis. These offices work every day to grow investment, expand trade opportunities, and deepen the relationships that connect our jurisdictions. As the United States prepares to celebrate 250 years of freedom and prosperity on July the 4th, Alberta looks forward to celebrating with them. It is worth reflecting on just how unique and enduring that partnership truly is. Alberta and the United States are not simply trading partners. We are neighbours, allies, friends, and builders together of one of the most integrated and successful economic partnerships anywhere in the world. For generations, our partnership has powered homes, fed families, created jobs, and strengthened energy security across North America. And as America charts its course for its next 250 years, it will need reliable energy, trusted partners, and proven allies. And on all 3 counts, Alberta is the answer. And we are proud to stand alongside the United States in building a stronger, more secure, and more prosperous future together. Happy birthday, America.
To respond, the Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Premier for that timely statement at a time where our American friends are certainly going through political turmoil, but also have a lot to celebrate. I am one of those many Albertans and Canadians with deep family and professional ties to the United States. I'm deeply grateful that I was able to go to school in the United States, and I've lived and worked from California to New York and Ohio and in Colorado and in about 40 states in between. And last night, most recently, I had the wonderful privilege of spending time with some of our U.S. Midwestern legislators and talking about their challenges and also their incredible opportunity for their future, and I thank them deeply for their service to their country. Mr. Speaker, I'm not alone in this. Albertans have deep ties with the United States. And while we will never be the 51st state, And while we are in a political moment where perhaps we don't all agree as politicians, and perhaps where we have to stand up for Canada against our dear friends in ways we've never done, that doesn't mean we don't have those deep ties and we cannot continue to work on those deep ties. You know, Mr. Speaker, I have been working with multiple U.S. ambassadors to Canada, with many consuls general, American and Canadian. I've been to the White House. I've negotiated with White House officials on pipelines. These are tough conversations, and these are tough negotiations, and right now, they're even tougher. And they will, in fact, take a deeply deft hand in order to manage well for the mutual benefit of Americans and of Canadians. But we need to be thoughtful, and we need to be strong, and we also need to understand that politicians pass, that even those of us in this legislature may not be in our positions forever, but ultimately the deep bonds of friendship and the deep business ties between our province and the United States will not pass. So, Mr. Speaker, in 2017, I loved saying the word sesquicentennial as we celebrated Canada's 150th anniversary. And now I get to say the word semi-quincentennial, or en français, semi-quincentenaire, which sounds both exciting and a little dangerous. That means 250th birthday. So to all of our friends in the United States, we wish you a happy, happy 250th anniversary. And let's remember, fate and geography made us neighbors, but our people make us friends.
Members' statements.
Edmonton, Highlands, Norwood.
Over the last 3 years, I've heard a lot of interesting facts from the UCP minister responsible for housing. I've heard him claim, no ego at all, he's the best housing minister in Canada. But on this side of the House, we look at data and we look at evidence, and it tells a very different story. Homelessness has tripled under the UCP since 2019. Shelter occupancy has increased by 60% over the past 3 years. The largest shelters in both Edmonton and Calgary are regularly at or over capacity. Shame. Edmonton is the frostbite amputation capital of the world, and we've seen a tragic 5-fold increase in amputations since 2019. It is shameful, and it's so preventable. And despite this minister boasting about housing starts, his government has failed Albertans who need affordable housing. They continue to use an outdated plan that doesn't account for population growth. They've let affordable housing stock get so bad that we're losing more units than we're gaining, and they've repeatedly missed their own targets for new affordable units, last year missing them by half. Yes, housing starts are up, but they are predicted to drop significantly over the next couple years. A 1-year high will not move Alberta out of a housing crisis. And yes, some rents have softened too, but that's after many years of rapidly increasing rents. And while this minister continues to boast, Albertans know the truth. I hear from so many across this province who are still experiencing unmanageable rent hikes. I hear from young people who have given up on the dream of home ownership. And so I don't really care if this minister thinks he's the best at housing in Canada. I care about my constituents. I care about Albertans who are suffering, who need support, who need protections, who need more affordable and supportive housing, and who need a government that will listen and will act. On this side of the House, we're listening, and we're ready to lead.
So my choice there was to let the member restart or add 5 seconds on the member's time. We did that because it was important that the member didn't get interrupted. So, okay. The next statement belongs to the member for Vermilion Lloyd, Minister Wainwright.
Mr. Speaker, across Alberta, classrooms are changing. Enrollment keeps growing, student needs are more complex, and teachers are feeling the pressure. Parents, teachers, and school boards have been clear. Class size matters. Smaller classes mean more individual attention, stronger early supports, and more manageable learning environments for everyone. That's why our government has taken action with a new $200 million class size reduction grant focused on kindergarten to grade 9, beginning in the 2026-27 school year. This targeted investment is expected to support the hiring of more than 1,400 additional teachers across Alberta. helping reduce class sizes where pressures are greatest. Mr. Speaker, this is a data-driven approach, not a one-size-fits-all announcement. Alberta has collected classroom-level information from more than 108,000 classrooms, the most comprehensive class-size data our province has ever gathered. The evidence allows funding to flow to schools and grades where classes are largest and needs are most urgent. Every public, separate, and francophone jurisdiction will receive support, with the biggest impact in the most crowded early and middle grades. The expected result is meaningful, lowering the provincial K-9 average class size from about 25 students to about 22, and significantly reducing the number of very large classes. In the schools under the most pressure, that can mean fewer students in a room, changing teachers and students will feel every day. School boards must use this funding to directly support classroom teaching and reduce class sizes, and we will continue collecting and reviewing data to ensure accountability, transparency, and real results. It builds on February's $143 million for complexity teams, up to 476 teachers and 952 educational assistants in complex classrooms. Mr. Speaker, class size matters, and this investment reflects our commitment to act, support teachers, and help every student succeed. Thank you.
Honourable members, it is now time for oral question period, and the first question belongs to the Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleagues on this side of the House and one or two opposite are wearing moose hide today. Well, this government shows its utter contempt for Indigenous people yet again. Let's be clear. It's a good day for Alberta. It's a good day for Canada. The UCP separatists lost. And I want to thank Indigenous people across this province for standing up for our country against these same separatists. Now, the Premier said yesterday, after that court decision, that she's considering her options. So, simple question, what is the government going to do?
Premier?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are going to appeal the decision. We think that there was an error in law. We want an act to be permissive of citizen-initiated petitions, and we don't want to deny 300,000 people the opportunity to have their signatures and their efforts considered and validated. We now have over 700,000 people between these two petitions that want to have some question on this issue discussed in an open way and voted on in the fall. So we will be taking that away to the committee, taking it away to Cabinet and Caucus, and appealing this.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I thank the Premier for her deep legal expertise and analysis, but after wasting so much money already, let's be clear what she just said. The government is going to spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of taxpayer money to back the separatists and fight against the rights of Indigenous people.
That's right.
And to fight against their duty to consult. That's the fight the Premier wants. She's willing to take up that fight, spending Albertans' money to support separatist friends. This does not solve any problems. Why would the Premier waste even more money fighting a losing battle?
Hear, hear.
Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we believe the decision is incorrect in law and that it's anti-democratic. We in this chamber represent all of Albertans. We are the democratically elected representatives. And when we have given the indication through legislation that we want a citizen initiative process to be permissive so that Albertans have a chance to go out, gather a petition campaign with hundreds of thousands of their fellow citizens, that they should be given the respect of having that petition validated. That's why we're appealing, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member.
Yet again, the Premier places herself above the law.
That's right.
Sorry, Premier, that is not how the system works.
That's right.
And you are wasting money. She is wasting money to appease her separatist friends and backers because she promised them that they would have their referendum question. All this money, all this time, all this denigration of Indigenous people. Remember, for the first time in history, all Indigenous chiefs voted non-confidence in this government, and that is no way to get a pipeline built. Is all of this just because the Premier promised her friends they'd have a referendum no matter what?
Hear, hear.
You can do a preamble, but it has to go through the chair, right? Okay. Premier.
Well, no, Mr. Speaker. We don't live in a society that has judicial supremacy. We live in a society that has parliamentary and democratic supremacy. That is the reason why, as part of the Constitution, Section 33 allows for a notwithstanding clause, so that when the court makes errors in law, it can always be overridden by democratically elected legislatures. Another avenue is to make sure that we exhaust an appeals process when we think that the judiciary has made an error, and that's what we'll do in this case.
Well, I could hear the question perfectly, the answer not quite so much. Let's hear both this time. On the second set of questions, the Leader of the Official Opposition.
What an extraordinary admission that the Premier doesn't believe in the Constitution.
Yeah.
But let's be clear, the Premier won her party's leadership thanks to the separatists. She owes the separatists, and now she's bending over backwards for the separatists. She's changed every law possible to make it easier for them while making Albertans' lives harder, but she can't use the notwithstanding clause now.
That's right.
And now the courts have told her that her rushed legislation to save her separatist friends is illegal. Will the Premier recognize that this entire mess is the government's fault?
Here, here.
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I sometimes wonder if the member opposite has read the Constitution. Let me point it to a section to him. Section 33 of the Charter on Rights and Freedoms is by definition a part of the Constitution. And that means that the courts do have deference to the democratically elected members of this chamber and in chambers across the country. And from time to time, the courts make errors in their judgment, at which point we have an obligation and also a right to appeal it. And that's what we're going to do in this case.
The Leader of the Official Opposition.
How deeply awkward for the Premier that she stopped reading at Section 33, because the notwithstanding clause does not apply to Section 35 Indigenous rights.
That's right.
And we warned the government that this would happen. They already knew, Justice Feasby told them that the question was unconstitutional. They knew it violated their duty to consult. The Chief Electoral Officer warned them in December that this would not stand up to a court of law, but this UCP government never, ever listens. Right. They can't help themselves in trying to help their separatist friends. Will the Premier admit the gig is up and cancel the referendum?
Here, here.
The Premier.
Well, legal and political rights are also protected in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Constitution, and we believe that people who have gathered and collected 700,000 signatures to put a question of consideration to the fellow citizens and to those who are duly elected is a legitimate practice of democracy. That is why we structured the Citizen Initiative Act to be permissive, to allow for citizens to have that democratic right, Mr. Speaker, and that's what we're going to be defending.
Honourable Member.
In her maiden speech in this House, the Premier talked about how human rights are unassailable. Meanwhile, she's violated them, she's taken them away, and today, just now, she invented new ones that don't even exist in the Constitution and apply only to her.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she ignores foreign interference. Separatists met with the White House, she didn't say a word. They asked Trump for $500 billion, she didn't say a word. Dutch YouTubers flooded us with misinformation, she didn't say a word. Last week we learned about Russian and American interference, she didn't say a word. Will she now say a word and cancel the referendum and end the threat of foreign interference?
Premier.
No, Mr. Speaker. We have 9 questions that we've put on the ballot for a referendum that will take place in October to address some of the legitimate grievances that Albertans have that has caused a harm in our relationship with Canada. There is a number of questions that relate to how the Constitution is written and making some changes to those so that Alberta and Canada can have a more constructive partnership in the spirit of cooperative federalism, and on immigration to make sure that we have policies that match the needs of our economy. I'm very pleased, Mr. Speaker, that we've got a Prime Minister willing to work with us on cooperative federalism, and I'll have more to say on that tomorrow.
The third set of questions belongs to the Leader of the Official Opposition.
The government's entire political agenda is in shambles. The Premier thought she was playing 4D chess, but the strategy was obvious to everyone. sneak in private health care, destroy public education, add in a side order of culture war and massive tax increases, and hope nobody notices because they're distracted by her rambling on about separatism and divisive referenda. But now the whole unbelievably cynical strategy is gone. It lies in shreds. The courts gave the Premier an escape route. Will she take it and cancel the referendum?
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, our legislative
Order. When I stop, that's not an invitation to supplant the person that's been recognized. Go ahead.
Our legislative
fresh
agenda,
35. It's only 2 seconds, but
our legislative agenda is far from being in shambles. We had 17 bills that we passed focused on protecting Albertans and strengthening the economy, removing politics from the classroom, creating safe and respectful learning environments, introducing province-wide library standards so children cannot access explicit visual material without parental consent. We're protecting vulnerable Albertans by creating stronger safeguards around MAID. We're expanding access to preventative testing and advancing Alberta's health system refocusing. We got a lot accomplished this session, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member.
But of course, taking the escape route would require the Premier to do something she's never before done: admit she was wrong. The government's utter incompetence caused this mess. She made it easy for her separatist friends to force a referendum. She promised them they'd get one, regardless of what the courts say, regardless of if they had the signatures, regardless of Indigenous people and their peskiness. Albertans, including her own caucus and 2 of her ministers this week, have said they just want this to go away. Will the Premier admit that this whole strategy was a mistake from the start and cancel the referendum?
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I've said that I support democratic actions of citizens, and I support the right of members in this Assembly to represent their constituents, which we did very well this session. In passing provincial oversight of immigration to crack down on bad actors, we also are going to be implementing the Alberta Sheriff's Police Service to better support safer communities. We cut red tape and expedited the 120-day Approvals Act to ensure predictable timelines, supported Alberta-made products through the Alberta Whiskey Act, and Albertans are no longer going to have to change their clocks twice a year now that we have eliminated daylight savings time.
Honourable member.
So interesting that she said she believes in democracy and immediately listed 2 things, one of which Albertans rejected in a referendum and one of which hasn't yet gone to referendum. Yeah. She doesn't care about democracy. The Premier did all of this to save her political skin. She's dragged her caucus, including the loyal Canadians in her caucus, into this political quagmire of separatism and ruined their reputations and their political careers. And through all of this, she blames everyone else for mistakes she made. She's got a decision to make. Will she for once act as a leader, prioritize this country over herself?
Premier.
Well, Mr.
Order. And I did this. Let the person get started. Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite also has a decision to make. Tomorrow, the Prime Minister is going to be coming to Calgary, where we're going to announce the advancement of an historic MOU that will reset the relationship with Canada and get rid of the 9 bad laws that his federal leader in his federal support party foisted on Alberta and created the division that we have today. Talk about not taking responsibility, Mr. Speaker. Shame on him for not standing up earlier. Shame on him for not doing anything to help us advance this MOU. We're looking forward to the announcement tomorrow.
The next, done? I hope we're done. Because now we need to hear only from the member for Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Mr. Speaker, 3 million Albertans had their private data breached. Separatists leaked the Alberta voters list, full names, home addresses, phone numbers, and more, all of which can now be used by bad actors for nefarious purposes. And the Separatists did it because they don't believe in democracy or laws, even calling Elections Alberta an evil institution. Now elections officials say thousands may have the entire voters list because David Parker and the Centurion Project did not comply with the injunction. Why is the Premier still advancing the cause of her separatist friends who have put so many Albertans' data at risk? Shame on her!
I know the opposition House Leader knows that when I stand up, you got to stop talking. Okay, Honourable Justice Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and it's quite frankly disappointing from the members opposite in the language that they're using in this Assembly. But what I can tell you is that the Elections Alberta office is diligently investigating this. We know that the RCMP continue to investigate it as well, along with EPS, CPS, other policing detachments here in this province, and now the Privacy Commissioner, Mr. Speaker, has opened up an investigation as well. These are the bodies that we have in this province that are tasked with conducting investigations. It's the appropriate way to proceed, and we're going to let those agencies do their investigations.
Honourable Member.
Mr. Speaker, Centurion Project wouldn't even give Elections Alberta the name of all the users who had access to the data. So 3 million people, their private data is in the hands of thousands. The government is bending over backwards for the separatists, even when separatists ignore laws, rights, and now Albertans' personal privacy. The Justice Minister just listed how many investigations. Why does the UCP government continue to support the cause of separatist leaders who ignore the law and jeopardize 3 million Albertans' safety and security?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is conflating two different things and confusing them. The members of the UCP party, the government of Alberta had nothing to do with the allegations made against completely unrelated third parties who released this list. But here is the thing, Mr. Speaker. Under the Election Act, the powers given to the election commissioner are the same as the ones given to public commissioners under the Public Inquiries Act, which allow the election commissioner to summon witnesses and do many other things, Mr. Speaker. We'll let the election commissioner do her job.
Opposition House Leader, heckling is allowed, but probably should try not to be louder than the actual person with the floor. The Honourable Member.
The answers are ridiculous. This government is ridiculous.
Yes.
The UCP made 4 legislative changes for David Parker and other separatist leaders. Yes. They rang up countless legal bills with taxpayer dollars, failing to defend those charges in court. And after all of that, the UCP separatist friends illegally posted Alberta's entire voters list to a public website. The UCP should finally stop helping those who seek to cause Alberta harm. Yesterday, Albertans saw the Premier still fighting for the separatists. Why don't you fight for Albertans?
The Honourable Justice Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and that's real rich coming from a member of an NDP opposition who told Albertans to leave this province and go find jobs elsewhere, Mr. Speaker, who continue to chase people out of this province, who were responsible for record debt in this province, Mr. Speaker, and who were responsible for everything negative in this province. That's why they lost their jobs. That's why they were voted out twice now, Mr. Speaker. That's why the NDP will never serve as government in this province ever again.
We all know that there's no preambles on the supplementaries, starting with the first question, and the person that's going to make a great example of that is Edmonton West Henley.
Mr. Speaker, the UCP has lost the trust of First Nation. That's it. That's the truth. Whether it's the historic First Nation-led non-confidence motion or the duty to consult expanding because of the UCP's absolute failure to act honorably. Will any of the ministers take some leadership, own their failure, and commit today to make changes to the way they work with First Nations and Métis peoples in this province?
A point of order was noted a minute ago at 10:38. The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did hear the member opposite a few days ago say that he speaks to Indigenous leaders very often, 7 days a week. Well, Mr. Speaker, so do I. And most of those conversations are rooted in conversations around economic development. In fact, I speak about the West Coast Oil Pipeline proposal very often with members across Alberta and BC, and these are the conversations that are on top of mind for Indigenous communities.
Honourable member.
Given that I've heard that the Treaty 8 protocol table is not working out the way that the minister wants, and given that the Alberta Court of King's Bench has correctly poked holes in the UCP's separatist agenda, and further given that the Premier stating yesterday that she will be appealing on behalf of the separatists, will the Premier finally just say it out loud for all Albertans to hear, the UCP is a separatist party?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Alberta's government is reviewing the Court of King's Bench decision and will respect the legal process, including the appeal that was announced yesterday. We support Alberta remaining a strong and prosperous part of Canada while respecting the democratic right of Albertans. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, we take our constitutional obligations seriously, including the duty to consult, grounded in the protection of Aboriginal and treaty rights, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member.
Given First Nations people are dying earlier than non-Indigenous peoples, especially in the North when they has cancer rates that this government is ignoring, given that First Nations have said that the UCP's consultation record is very, very poor, and given that First Nations keep winning and this UCP government keeps losing in the courts, will the Premier finally admit she needs better advisors because her government isn't acting very honourable? Y'all are looking like a bunch of tug-eyes.
Honourable member, I'm just gonna, you need to go through the chair. I just do it to everybody, please. Stand up and apologize.
I apologize.
Thank you. That's the right way to do it. Thank you very much. Next question belongs to the member for Olds. Pardon? Oh, yes, indeed. The Minister of Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some of these matters are before the court, so I can't respond to specifics. But of course, the health and well-being and safety of all Albertans is paramount to this government, Mr. Speaker. And I will reiterate once again that I have conversations on a daily basis with members across this province about health, but mainly about business development opportunities. And there are a number of nations in Treaty 8 that I'm speaking to on a daily basis, and I'll be touching base with them tomorrow as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. And now the next question belongs to Old Didsbury, Three Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, classrooms are growing, and with that growth comes pressures on schools and teachers. We have seen Alberta's government invest $8.6 billion to build over 100 schools across the province. And as of right now, there are more than 161 public school projects underway across Alberta. But to help reduce class sizes, more teachers are also needed. To the Minister of Education and Childcare, can you please provide more information on the new class size reduction grant?
Great question. Here. Order. No one's been recognized at this point. I shouldn't hear anything, voice-wise, except from the Minister of Education and Childcare.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was incredibly delighted to join the Premier yesterday to announce the creation of the class size reduction grant, backed with $200 million that is going to support the hiring of almost 1,500 additional teachers. We're using data that we collected back in November to direct these funds to school divisions that have the largest core class sizes. As a direct result of this investment, the average class size in the province is projected to decrease substantially from 25 to 22, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here. And at 10:43, a point of order has been noted. Olds, Didsbury, Three Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the Minister for all of his hard work on behalf of parents, students, and teachers. Given that Alberta's government is investing $200 million for the new class size reduction grant, and given that there have been previous commitments to hire more teachers and education staff in Bill 2, the Back to School Act, To the Minister of Education and Childcare, can you please elaborate on how this new investment builds on previous commitments to hire more teachers?
The Honourable the Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Budget 26 provides us a historic 7% increase in operating funding, which is going to help our school divisions hire more teachers and staff. In addition, of course, in February, we announced the allocation of $143 million to create 476 complexity teams that are comprised of 1 teacher and 2 educational assistants that are being sent to the schools with the highest degree of complexity, according to the data that we've collected. And so this investment that we've made yesterday builds on all of that previous work, and there's still more to come, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you again to the Minister for the response and all of the work. It was exciting news yesterday. Given that we are seeing continued investments to hire more teachers across the province, and given that we are now seeing new pathways for teachers to enter the classrooms, and further given that more staff can help reduce class sizes, but the need for more classroom spaces is still there, to the same Minister, can you please update the Chamber on the progress of building and advancing public school projects across the province?
Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, since we announced the Schools Now program in the fall of 2024, 85 new school projects have been announced, 14 have been completed, and there are now 161 public school projects underway across the province. To date, 38 projects have been fast-tracked as a result of the Schools Now program. 4 projects have been accelerated twice, for a total of 42 total accelerations, and 12 projects are expected to be completed by the end of next fiscal year.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Calgary Foothills.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you certainly can't call this UCP government fiscally conservative or fiscally responsible.
That's right.
The Finance Minister tabled a $9.4 billion deficit with nothing to show for it except huge property tax increases. But that didn't stop him from giving a $6,000 pay raise to UCP MLAs, while everyday Albertans are paying more for less. Will the minister admit that on top of his massive deficit, giving parliamentary secretaries a $6,000 raise is the opposite of fiscally conservative?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, they're reaching. They're reaching. You got to arch your back like a dragon to reach like they're reaching right now. Budget 26, $9.4 billion deficit. I was asked what would happen to our credit rating. Will this be like the years under the members opposite where we saw constant downgrades? Shame. No, just yesterday our credit rating affirmed with words like outlier, with words like exception, because we're standing out in this country. We're the lone bright spot in this country, citing things like exceptional fiscal management, strong cost.
Calgary Foothills.
Well, given that the minister is reaching into the pockets of homeowners in Calgary to pay for those $6,000 raises,
That's right.
and given that this government has wasted millions on useless Turkish Tylenol from Sam Maraish while the emergency rooms are overcrowded, and given that this government's rewrote ethics rules to allow the Premier to accept lavish gifts from foreign governments while Albertans struggle to pay for essentials, will the minister admit that that this government's guiding philosophy is cronyism, not conservatism?
Hear.
Hear. The Honourable Minister of Finance and President Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I think the point.
You know, you got to let somebody get started before we do it.
No, go ahead, sir.
Go with the fresh 35. Go.
Encourage you to do this. No, I would just say, Mr. Speaker, we're on this side of the House because Albertans trust us. We're on this side of the House because Albertans didn't trust them. They have seen what happens when a ragtag bunch of pipeline protesters come to this place and get the keys to this House. We saw, what did we see? We saw people we saw equipment, we saw capital, we heard the giant sucking sound to the United States because of this group that could not be trusted. Before they even did a policy, everything fled because they know that there are a bunch of...
Point of order. Call the point of order if you want. Did I hear a point of order? Okay, a point of order is noted. A point of order is noted at 10:49. Calgary Foothills.
Well, given that
Five here. Folks, on both sides, I know there's heckling. I get it. It's the last day of school. I get that. But you got to let the person with the floor get started on both sides. And now the ones who get started, Calgary Foothills.
Well, given that recent surveys show that Alberta shows the highest level of dissatisfaction in the country, given that each day since this affordability crisis has escalated, we've called on the Finance Minister to slash fuel taxes, and each day he's rejected it. Given that the UCP has spent this daily windfall on raises for themselves and sweetheart deals for insiders, while Albertans continue to pay more for gas, groceries and housing, why won't the UCP put Albertans first instead of lining the pockets of parliamentary secretaries?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the incoherent ramblings there, which is it? Is it a huge deficit or is it a windfall? That's what I've been hearing here for months. Is it strong fiscal management? Is that why our credit rating is being affirmed? Because of the strong cost controls? That's what these guys are saying. Or should we take this gospel from this side opposite?
No gospel there.
Let's hear, at least try to hear the answer. Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, we're highlighted in this credit rating affirmation for dealing with a very volatile set of revenues. Doing the right thing in surplus, managing the deficits.
The next question belongs to the member for Edmonton Gold Bar.
Comrade Speaker, in Public Accounts Committee last week, the Environment Department revealed that the government is plowing ahead on its coal mining policy.
I'm not offended by that, but the rules of this House say you know what the correct address is. I ask you to withdraw the previous one.
Absolutely.
You need to say the words.
I withdraw this comment. In Public Accounts Committee last week.
Just apologize and withdraw. Just get it done.
I did. I withdrew the comment.
And you need to apologize.
Yeah,
Are you going to apologize?
I did.
No, you need to say the word. I need to hear it.
I said I apologize and withdraw, Mr. Speaker. In Public Accounts Committee last week, the Environment Department revealed that its government is plowing ahead on its coal mining policy without implementing any of the recommendations made by the UCP's own advisory committee back in 2021. Those recommendations were to establish programs to protect taxpayers from financial liabilities, complete regional and sub-regional plans, enhance environmental monitoring, address water contamination, and reclaim closed mines. Why has the department done nothing to implement those recommendations?
The Honourable the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I have in my hand a letter from the Marg McQuaid Boyd to the AER on May 24th, 2016. In it, she says that all Category 2 lands should be treated as other categories. They invited the Australians to come in to be able to buy up those Category 2 lands. We're fixing that problem that they started in 2016. We'll take no lessons from the NDP on this issue.
quiet for you. Honourable member for Gold Bar.
Given the minister obviously needs remedial reading lessons, and given the peer-reviewed studies by the ministry's own scientists found that Alberta's current reclamation and remediation practices are insufficient to prevent downstream water contamination, and given that a different report by the Joint Review Panel concluded that the economic benefits of coal mining do not outweigh the environmental harm, and given that this government is aware its environmental standards are inadequate to prevent harm, yet no updated standards or improvements have been implemented despite this knowledge, how can this government justify putting corporate interests first and fail to protect Albertans from the environmental damage of coal?
Is there a point of order? Yes, I have. Okay, 10:55 thereabouts, a point of order was called, and now we go to the Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government stepped in to fix that mistake that they made in 2016. We returned more than 40,000 hectares Category 2 land, coal leases in the Eastern Slopes back into the hands of Albertans, and we have no intention of ever leasing those lands for coal development again. We also banned new open-pit coal mining and mountaintop removal mining in the Eastern Slopes. Mr. Speaker, once again, we're fixing the problems that they started in 2016 under their minister, Mark McQuaid-Boyd. We'll take no lessons from them.
The honourable member for Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the minister said Albertans, but he meant that he's put those lands in the hands of Australian coal billionaires, and given that the AER has cancelled public hearings and the UCP continues to push decisions without a clear mandate, and given that risks of water contamination, massive cleanup liabilities, weak oversight, and a lack of public trust are fueling a province-wide petition led by Cord Blunt to stop coal mining, will the Premier respect the will of Albertans and their opposition to coal mining, or will this government continue to work for Australian coal billionaires?
Order. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the reality is that in 2016, the NDP government's energy minister, as I said earlier, explicitly invited coal companies into the Category 2 lands. That decision exposed Albertans to the risk of billions of dollars in potential legal liabilities, to the tune of $13 billion worth of legal liabilities. Mr. Speaker, we are trying to fix and clean up the mess that those members made when they were in office between 2015 and 2019. Hopefully, Albertans never make that mistake again, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Airdrie East. Oh. Honourable member. Sorry, you know what, honourable member, my apologies. It's not clear, but that's not an excuse. My mistake. My apologies. You have the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Premier is promising another pipeline, but there is no proponent willing to build without massive taxpayer guarantees. No private company will proceed without taxpayer backstops, capital, and protection from runaway costs, the same risk that drove TMX more than 600% over budget. Meanwhile, this government has created so much uncertainty that investors say Alberta has become harder to deal with than Ottawa. To the Premier, how much financial risk is this government prepared to dump on Albertans to keep this MOU boondoggle alive?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Minerals.
You know, Mr. Speaker, recently we've had so much support from across Canada for pipelines, so much support for Alberta's energy getting to market. We've even had, believe it or not, only 17% of BCers are against pipelines. What I'm asking, Mr. Speaker, is why is that member opposite against pipelines? And why is he trying to dish a project that really is in the best interest of Canadians, Mr. Speaker? The world wants our energy. Yep. We're going to provide it to them.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. More correctly than in the past, Airdrie Cochrane.
Given the UCP's own climate plan committed Alberta to a carbon price of $170 by 2030, and given in Houston, the Premier stated that a carbon tax was essential to future-proof Alberta's energy, and given Pathways companies, oil sands' largest players, backed away from their carbon capture commitments, emissions targets, and support for the industrial carbon tax. To the Premier, If industry no longer supports your climate grand bargain, what evidence do you have that global markets will pay more for higher-cost Alberta energy?
The Honourable Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, the entire planet wants our oil right now. They want our natural gas. They want all of our products, Mr. Speaker. I don't know what the member has against it, but I will tell you this, that we have been in a negotiation with the federal government. They have some jurisdictional oversight. We have some jurisdictional oversight. It is a negotiation, Mr. Speaker. We're negotiating in the best interest of Albertans, and whatever the final agreement is, I would just like to say thank you for the Premier for such a great job.
Honourable Member.
Given investment depends on stability, predictability, and confidence in the rule of law, and given this government is fueling instability through its threats to leave Canada, and given separation would economically devastate Alberta, while even a failed referendum weakens our negotiating position with Ottawa and damages investor confidence. To the Premier, how does threatening to break up the country help secure pipelines, investment, or major projects when your own government is creating the very instability driving investment away?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing weakened is that member's credibility when he decided to break his oath of cabinet and turned against true conservative principles, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, with the Memorandum of Understanding and the fantastic announcement that we'll be hearing from the Premier and the Prime Minister tomorrow, is proof that we are leading the country in investment attraction, in addition to the fact that we are being fiscally prudent in difficult financial times, which is why our credit rating of AA- has been reaffirmed, and the Business Council of Alberta has said that we are an outlier in Canada, leading the charge because of the leadership of our Finance Minister and our Premier. That's leadership, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Ellerslie.
Scandal is normal for this government. It is not just a data breach. It is bloated contracts to insiders, Turkish Tylenol, RCMP raids, just some of the corruption tied to the Premier's friend, Sam Raish. It is her trip to the Middle East, taking private flights, staying in luxury suits and fancy cat statues from her friend, the Saudi prince. When will the member of opposite realize enough is enough and demand of themselves a clean-up of their own government?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it's time for the NDP to clean up their own act and get on board with Alberta's prosperity. Prosperity that has been created by members of the government benches who have put Albertans first when it comes to investment attraction and job creation. Job creation sees over 100,000 jobs year over year, Mr. Speaker. Why did the members opposite? Why did they oppose job creation? Why did they vote against the budget that would have put youth in the workforce at historic rates? Why do they hate youth getting into job sites? Why do they hate job creators in this province? Why do they hate investment? Ask them, Mr. Speaker. That's where the question really lies.
Edmonton-Ellerslie. Pardon me. There was a point of order called at 11:01. Okay. Honourable Member, you got a full 35. I just had to do that first.
Given that this government has wasted millions on insider deals for their friends while hurting healthcare and education, given that they have given themselves $6,000 raises while many Albertans are only one paycheck away from the financial ruin, and given that their corruption and wasteful spending have left the books in red, to the UCP members, what happens to that their conservative fiscal management, since they are running a giant $9.4 billion deficit?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I will ask a question to the members opposite. Why are you trying to inhale and why are you trying to exhale at the exact same time? Mr. Speaker, is it a deficit or is it a windfall? The members opposite can't seem to figure it out. They also can't seem to figure out what real leadership looks like. Mr. Speaker, I think it's time that the NDP and the members of the NDP look at cleaning house, and maybe it starts with the top and their own leader.
Order. we're all adults. Let's do that adult thing for a minute here. Edmonton Ellerslie.
Given billions in deficits, millions wasted on bad deals, and thousands more to pay bumps for parliamentary secretaries. Given this government has now planned to waste even millions more on a separatist referendum no one asked for. Given UCP's record on corruption and waste, failing to help struggling Albertans, will the government finally listen to the more than 60% of Albertans who say our province is heading the wrong direction under this UCP government?
The Honourable, the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had no idea that it was a waste of money to consult Albertans on what matters most to them. What does the members opposite actually want? What I can tell you is on this side of the House, we're spending money to make sure that, for example, we have $384 million to create 5,500 more apprenticeship training spaces at NAIT and strengthening Alberta's skilled workforce. As we continue to attract investment and we have more manufacturing here in this province, there are those who need to build those projects. These apprenticeships are going to fill those spots.
That's right.
The next question belongs to Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Temperatures are heating up across the province and Lakelanders are getting ready to enjoy the sunshine. Summer in Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul is a time where children are squealing with joy at beaches, anglers are trying to get that record fish, and farmers are toiling in their fields. But it's also when wildfire activity starts to increase in our forest areas. To the Ministry of Forestry and Parks, what is the government doing to prepare for wildfire season for Northeast Alberta?
Good question. The Honourable, the Minister of Forestry and Parks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thanks the member for the question. Alberta's government is committed to defending our forests and communities through various wildfire mitigation programs and projects. That is why we continue to invest in prevention efforts across this province. We are working closely with the forest industry to reduce hazardous fuels within 5 kilometres of at-risk communities by harvesting volatile timber, helping lower the intensity and spread of potential wildfires. There have been many projects completed around this member's constituency in the last 3 years, including hazardous fuel reduction in the MD of Bonnyville. As of April 1st, 2025, Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta funded 32 Fire Smart projects in Alberta.
Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again, thank you to that minister for the answer. Given that Lakelanders are here to enjoy the beautiful forests and area, like it's a remarkable place I live, and I think that every MLA out there takes pride in their constituency. And further, given that we all share the responsibility of working together to be fire smart, preventing wildfires. To that same minister, what can Albertans do to prevent wildfires from starting throughout the Lakeland region?
Good question.
The Honourable, the Minister of Forestry and Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We encourage all Albertans to take advantage of the wonderful weather and enjoy the beautiful forests across our province. At the same time, these warm and dry conditions make it especially important to take action before heading out. Clear and dry debris from around your campsite, keep a bucket of water nearby at all times, and never leave a fire unattended. When extinguishing your campfire, remember, soak it, stir it, and soak it again until the ashes are cold to the touch. Even small actions can make a major difference during wildfire season. I hope for good weather as folks enjoy their time in the outdoors, but I also know the kids love the splash in puddles too, so hopefully we'll have a little bit of both this weekend.
There you go. Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again, thank you to that minister for the response. Given that Northeast Alberta is the home of an important oil sands projects and operations, many of which are surrounded by vast boreal forest, and further given that these projects are highly susceptible to wildfire damage that threatens our workers, our economy, and our environment. To that same minister, what is this government doing to protect oil sands workers and facilities from the dangers of wildfires across the Northeast Alberta region?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. Our government understands the importance of protecting workers, communities, and critical infrastructure in Northeast Alberta, including our oil sands. When responding to wildfires, Alberta's priorities are clear. Number 1 is human life. Number 2 is communities and associated infrastructure. Number 3 is major environmental and economic values. When it comes to protecting our devoted oil sands workers, our model is simple: people first. Mr. Speaker, keeping these projects safe from wildfire is part of creating an attractive business environment. Our government will continue taking steps to protect Alberta's workers, communities and industries from the threat of wildfire.
The next question belongs to the honourable member for Calgary Edgemont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Premier is busy rewriting laws again and again to satisfy separatists while ignoring what Albertans actually need. The UCP keeps rejecting every measure to ease the cost of living. No to raising the minimum wage, no to protecting people from credit fraud, no to banning nuisance fees, no to freezing the gas tax. Last week, though, they were able to find $6,000 bonuses for parliamentary secretaries, but nothing for struggling Albertans and families. Will this government finally admit that it has never been focused on making life better for all?
The Honourable Minister, Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite went over a litany of things that she says we are not doing, but I can assure the members of this chamber and all members of the public that the government continues to be focused on what matters most, which is keeping more money in their pockets. That's why, unlike the members opposite, who introduced the largest tax increase in the history of the province, the job-killing carbon tax, which is what it did, we reduced taxes on families, which is saving families an average of $1,500 per year, Mr. Speaker. The members opposite have no idea how to save Albertans money, and they never saw a tax that they didn't like.
Calgary Edgemont.
Given that the UCP has driven up the costs of all kinds, property taxes up $240, car insurance, and even a pause on the gas talk is deemed too generous. Given that the UCP is dismantling public health care and forcing Albertans to pay out of pocket for diagnostics, meaning access to tests like mammograms, MRIs, ultrasounds, and blood block could cost a pretty penny. Why have all the UCP decisions actually just made life more expensive for Albertans?
Yeah. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like the Leader of the Opposition, the member had to really reach back like a dragon to get that. Now we have 2 dragons, Mr. Speaker. And what I can tell you in this instance is the member has not found anything relevant or even close to a coherent thought in that question when it comes to really addressing the affordability issue in this province, which is keeping taxes low so that Albertans have more access to the money that they earn at the end of every month. I contend that Albertans know how to spend their money much better than the government does, and that's why we're making sure they keep as much of it as possible.
There's 2 people pop up, and I'm going to say 1 point of order was called. Is that fair? At 11:12. Okay. Calgary Edgemont.
Given this UCP government is more focused on appeasing separatists, given that the Premier was committing to wasting even more money on a legal fight for the separatists to get a referendum, and given that while the UCP denies Albertans the relief and the leadership they deserve, Alberta New Democrats have a real solution and we are ready to deliver. When will the government focus on Albertans for once, instead of bending over backwards and wasting more money on their separatist friends?
Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the only plan the members opposite have on affordability is to, quote, as they support in their leadership race, to eat the rich. Now, on this side of the House, we believe that the greatest affordability measure we ever did for the province of Alberta was kicking the NDP out of government and making sure that a real conservative government is here to lead this province forward, cutting taxes, attracting investment, creating an environment where jobs can thrive and advance, Mr. Speaker. The members opposite have no plan. They continue to have no plan, and that starts with their leadership at the top.
Honourable members, in 30 seconds, we will continue with the routine. Centre.
Governments are elected and given power to serve the people, to protect and preserve the institutions entrusted to them, like healthcare, education, our environment and natural resources, and our democracy itself, the foundation that our province, our society, everything we depend on rests on. And the best governments, they leave it better than they found it. They strengthen accountability, improve accessibility, ensure equality. Others just maintain the status quo, but the worst governments, they tear democracy apart, seize power, gut accountability, twist every law, every system, every institution to serve themselves, and that's the UCP. The Premier once tried to interfere in a criminal case on behalf of a separatist friend, but won't do a thing to help 3 million Albertans whose information was stolen and leaked by radical separatists. The Justice Minister changed laws to make it harder to investigate when people break elections law and helped separatists disrupt our entire province by lowering the bar to force a vote on separation. Sledgehammers to the foundation of our democracy. No one has faith in a game where one player keeps stacking the deck, but that's part of the course for the UCP. They've passed laws making it harder for Albertans to vote, gutted accountability by making it harder to hide political donations and much harder to get information from government. Heck, the Justice Minister passed a law to give himself immunity. And now, with utter disregard for every democratic norm, the most basic principles of fair play, they've rejected an independent process and appointed their own MLAs to redraw our election maps. It's a cynical play for more power, using our laws and our money to create chaos, push propaganda, stoke division, and kill trust in the systems and institutions that were built to protect us. It's damage that will last for years, but it's not too late. We can still stand up and say no, refuse to become cynical, and hold on to hope. Channel righteous anger to rally our friends, family, and neighbours to fight their referendum, debunk their propaganda, and defeat them in the next election, and choose a government that will serve Albertans, not themselves. Alberta's New Democrats are ready.
Livingston McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize Nurses Week and to thank our dedicated nurses across Alberta who serve our communities with professionalism, compassion, and quiet strength. Nursing is not just a profession, it's a calling. Day in and day out, Alberta's nurses show up when people need them most. They care for our loved ones in moments of fear and uncertainty, and they do so with skill, resiliency, and integrity. They are the steady hands and calm voices that patients rely on. Mr. Speaker, a strong healthcare system depends on a strong nursing workforce. That is why our government is focused on practical, responsible steps to support nurses and ensure the sustainability of this essential profession. We are increasing training opportunities right here in Alberta, creating more seats for nursing students so we can grow our own workforce and reduce reliance on recruitment from elsewhere. At the same time, we're working to ensure nurses can spend time with patients and less time navigating bureaucracy. Reducing administrative burden and supporting effective care delivery are key priorities. We also recognize the unique needs of rural communities. Albertans, no matter where they live, deserve access to care. This is why we're supporting initiatives to attract and retain nurses in rural and remote areas where they play a vital role. Mr. Speaker, we believe in respecting the professions that serve Albertans, using taxpayer dollars wisely and building systems that are sustainable for long-term growth. Supporting nurses is central to that work. This Nurses Week, we extend our sincere thanks to every nurse in Alberta. Your contribution strengthens families, communities, and our province as a whole.
You're here. Well said.
Calgary, Curry.
Mr. Speaker, the data breach scandal has given the Premier the chance to play one of her favourite games, the blame game. When the Alberta NDP told this House that at least one of her staffers was present at the notorious Centurion Project meeting, the Premier's first play was to blame, of all people, the Leader of the Opposition for not telling her about the data breach before we told the authorities. When that failed, the Premier made ready for the bus stop and threw that staffer and the UCP's caucus director under the bus, all while demonstrating in a rambling answer to the press that she has no strong grasp of how her offices work, who does what within them, or how poorly they appear to be run. Albertans have seen it all before from this Premier. A failed separatist referendum struck down by the courts. It couldn't be the Constitution. It must be those woke, Liberal-appointed judges. Her government drops the ball. Blame Ottawa. The Premier stokes separatism for her political gain and threatens Canadian unity. Well, that must be Justin Trudeau's fault. Corruption, grift, bloated contracts, wasted millions. Who else to blame but the public servants at AHS? A failing healthcare system, underfunded education, the sky-high cost of living, and everything else this government has either caused or done nothing to fix. Just blame immigrants. After telling the world that Alberta is calling. The members of this government and the Premier herself have a pathological inability to take responsibility for their actions, and their disaster of a record demonstrates either deep incompetence or profound malice. Or maybe it's both. Either way, they can't be trusted. Albertans deserve better than this corrupt government. They deserve better than the Premier's self-serving entitlement. It's time for a change. It's time for an NDP government.
Edmonton Northwest.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to speak directly to my colleagues in the Government Caucus. It's my honour to be the longest-serving member.
Start over, but you're going to speak through the chair. And then, but you need to. I'm going to give you the full 2 minutes.
Yes.
But you're going to speak through the chair.
Absolutely. Mr. Speaker, through you, of course, today I am speaking to my colleagues in the Government Caucus. It's my honour to be the longest-serving member in this House. I've seen 8 premiers come and go, but I've never seen one treat her caucus as badly as this one. And I was here for Alison Redford.
2 minutes now, because we don't interrupt member statements.
Oh,
you get to start over.
Okay.
Take out the word directly in the first sentence.
All right. Mr. Speaker, today I speak to you and to my colleagues in the Government Caucus. It's my honour to be the longest-serving member in this House. I've seen 8 premiers come and go, but I've never seen one treat her caucus as badly as this one. And I was here for Alison Redford. This premier keeps her caucus in the dark. She doesn't tell them about the Saudi flights. They probably didn't know about the secret deals with Sam Raish and the enormous amount of wasted money. She didn't tell them about the multiple RCMP investigations that are ensnaring all of them. But most important, Mr. Speaker, she has dragged her caucus into a separatist quagmire from which there is no escape. I know many of my colleagues across the way personally. When they ran for election, they thought they were running as conservatives, fiscal conservatives, people who respect traditions and institutions, and above all, good and loyal Canadians who believe in the promise of our country, Canada. But now they find themselves in a separatist government working for a separatist premier. Jeffrey Rath has already said that he will challenge the nomination of any and all who don't show their separatist credentials, and they'll lose. But if they admit to Albertans that they've been separatists this whole time, they will lose. The incompetence and the corruption of the Premier and her inner circle is what caused this. They will hear an earful from the neighbours on the barbecue circuit this summer, certainly. And I'll remind them all, they have the power to end this. They have the power to change this government into one that actually cares for governing for Albertans. The question is, do they have the courage?
Order.
Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Presenting petitions, notices of motions, introduction of bills, tabling returns and reports.
Are there tablings? St. Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm tabling a letter from St. Albert Public Library dated April 17th, which I referred to yesterday afternoon in debate.
Edmonton Decor.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to table 5 copies of a letter from AMA asking the government to address the consequence of dual practice through a list of recommendations that...
Lacombe Pinoca.
Mr. Speaker, I am tabling House Resolution number 804 from the State of Illinois House of Representatives, congratulating the Canadian Friendship Caucus on its formation.
Here, here. Edmonton Highlands North. I'm trying to go back side to side, but if nobody's standing, I'm doing the best I can. Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to table 5 copies of an email from Derek Heisler. His email is entitled, "This voter data scandal must be your government's #1 priority," and I urge all members to read it.
Honourable member, I've tried to discourage people giving advice at the end of their tablings about who should read what and who should do what. All right, you've got your tabling done, but Grand Prairie.
Excellent, thank you. I rise today to table the State of Indiana Senate Resolution number 7 that recognizes a partnership between Alberta and the state of Indiana, and that both have a history of strong partnership in trade, integrated economies, and similar energy approaches.
Calgary, Edgemont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to table the 5 requisite copies of an article from CBC titled, "Alberta Voter List Leaks Puts Domestic Violent Victim on Edge, Organized says Some domestic violent victims will be looking for a new place to live."
Lac St. Anne, Parkland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to table from the Illinois House of Representatives Resolution 802, and it states, sir, that we celebrate a successful partnership between the state of Illinois and the province of Alberta, and not to tell anybody to read it, but this is a good one. This is a real good one.
And that's, you don't get to give advice, okay? Because then tablings on both sides, because then tablings become debate, and I don't think any of us really want how that's going to end up. All right, let's just be, the rules are there for a reason, to keep order here. Are there any more tablings? Seeing none.
Tablings to the clerk, deferred divisions.
We're at points of order. Okay. 10:38 is the first point of order, I think, that are thereabouts that I have recorded from the government side, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise at 23 HI&J. At the time noted, from a sedentary position, the Leader of the Opposition said to the Justice Minister while answering a question, "You're anti-immigrant." In case you forgot, this is a point of order, making an accusation directly against a member, obviously a very inappropriate one. Leave it in your hands.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, very raucous day here, and although I sit next to the Leader of the Official Opposition, I can honestly say I did not hear the heckle, but I will say that this government and their anti-immigrant referendum and policy is absolutely a matter of debate, and I submit to you as evidence the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives and their article with just the headline I will read, "Unpacking Alberta's Anti-Immigrant and Anti-Constitutional Referendums."
Okay, well, thank you for your submissions, and despite what anybody else heard here, the microphones heard the Leader of the Opposition say, "You want Albertans to leave. You're anti-immigrant now." Clearly a point of order for which the the Leader of the Opposition needs to apologize and withdraw.
Apologize and withdraw.
The next one, according to my sadly extensive notes, 10:43.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of order. At the time, the member from, now I don't have the list here, but the member from Edmonton, West Henday, was speaking, and at the end of his remarks, tried to get in what I thought was a disgustingly derogatory comment towards the government, which he said, "You are tug eyes." Mr. Speaker, a quick cursory search of this would lead me to believe it is a Cree word that refers to, or some variation of, a phallus. So, Mr. Speaker, while I appreciate that the member has strong feelings about things the government is doing, I would think that this term falls well below the level of decorum expected of any member. If I was to walk in here and use a French, Russian, Spanish, whatever language you want to pick term for the members opposite, that was incredibly derogatory in that native language, does not matter if the members understand it or not. It is unparliamentary. And it was disgusting. It was absolutely repulsive. That member would use that kind of language in this chamber. He should apologize, withdraw, and be totally ashamed, and think over the next several months about his conduct.
Mr. Speaker, it is absolutely repulsive and disgusting that the government House Leader is telling an Indigenous MLA in this chamber how they should feel. And that he is telling us the interpretation.
Order. There's no points. No, you please be seated. No, there's no point of orders during points of orders, thankfully. Sit down, please. Continue.
Thank you,
Despite there's no points of orders during your points of orders, do your best to not create a ruckus. Go ahead.
I will say, Mr. Speaker, the government House Leader has no shame in the way he attacks my members, the way he misinterprets things to give it the worst possible spin, and the way he doesn't know the definition of Cree words, Mr. Speaker. As I understand it, the word that was used is often colloquially used as tough guy. That's right. Not what the minister has tried to spin it as. I will also note that the Speaker intervened at that moment, and it has already been withdrawn, that comment. And so we continue debate on something highly charged in a way that creates disorder in this House, in a way that is unnecessary, and I do not thank the government House Leader for how he's behaved this afternoon.
So here's what the Hansard says. Y'all are looking like a bunch of tug eyes. And here's what else it says. The member says, I apologize. What he didn't do is withdraw. I'll ask the House Leader to do that to finish the apology.
On behalf of the member, I apologize and withdraw.
The next 1049 is what I have, I think. And this one is from the opposition side, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rose on 23J, uses abusive or insulting language of a nature likely to create disorder. At that time, in his third response, the Minister of Finance began by declaring that the comments from my Finance Shadow Minister were incoherent ramblings. Really unfortunate to lower yourself to just insulting the person asking the question or the question being asked. And it's, I believe, did create disorder in this House, and I think it's insulting language. So I call the point of order, Mr. Speaker. I look forward to your ruling.
The Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I disagree with the argument from the leader of the, the Opposition House Leader. Yesterday, the member from Sherwood Park referenced my answer as being bumbling and incoherent. I think that is pretty much on par with what the member here said. It was not ruled a point of order then. I just simply said I was deeply offended and it hurt me so bad. Now, Mr. Speaker, what I can say is that this is not a point of order. It's just part of the debate. And if the member's feelings are hurt, maybe that just means the member doesn't have the constitution for the job that we do here every day.
Well, this is honourable member. You've already spoken to this.
Only to say, Mr. Speaker, that the practice of doing insulting comments in the middle of points of order when we can't call points of order is causing disorder and is shameful, and I would ask the Government House Leader to stop or the Speaker to intervene.
I will ask both sides to stop. You know what, folks? Suck it up. We're going away. We're not going to be here for a few more. No, but I'm also saying stop the bad behavior. It's both. Stop the bad behavior. Control yourselves. We're not going to be together for a few months, and some of you may be grateful for that, but doesn't change the fact we're adults. We're representing 5 million Albertans. We should all remember that. And I know in the heat of the moment you can forget for a minute, but you know what? Stop. I'm looking don't tell me which way, do not instruct me on which way to look, honourable member. So, what the, it says, I don't think this isn't in debate. The comment by the finance minister ended with, they know that they're a bunch of communists. So, pardon me? Excuse me.
The rambling one. Disagree with the communists.
I get the feeling that some of the arguments were on a different point of order, but nonetheless, point of order number 3 ends with, they know they're a bunch of communists. I did. I called 1049. You didn't call a point of order? Well, then there's no point of order. Then that concludes that matter. That takes us to Honourable House Leader, Government or Opposition House Leader. Did somebody call a point of order or not?
Absolutely, and I've argued the point of order. The comment was to do with what the finance minister said about.
But your fellow member just told me that nobody did. So.
We did not call a point of order on them calling us communists. We call them separatists. They are being ridiculous. It's fine. No point of order on that. But the finance minister talking about bumbling and incoherent thoughts, that is what I call the point of order on, because the government is insulting members rather than answering questions. That is my point of order, Mr. Speaker.
And okay, thank you for that. Sadly, I don't, okay, on the 1049 point of order that didn't happen, I'm just trying to sort this out. I don't see any comment about bumbling and incoherent thoughts. The point of order raised at 1049. Let's look at that, but that was called by the government side. Number 6. We'll get to number 6. Is that bumbling?
Number 6 is what she just.
Were you talking? I think Opposition House Leader. My table's telling me that the comments that you seem to be making reference to is at a point of order coming up, and we'll get to it.
Make my arguments at the appropriate time.
I'm just doing the best I can here.
Understood. Me too.
At or about 11. At or about 10:55. Looks like the government called a point of order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The point of order I called was at 10:55 on the member from Edmonton Gold Bar. When he was asking his question, he began his statement with, given the minister needs remedial reading lessons. If we're going to talk about insulting language and insulting someone directly, I think this is an example of that. I think it's a point of order 23HI and J. I'll just leave it at that.
Mr. Speaker, the government House Leader just argued that these things are not points of order and they are important matters of debate. And so I find myself at a loss. I will say that I do not have at that time the exact reading of the blues, but to use the turn of phrase from the government House Leader, if his feelings were hurt, I will apologize and withdraw.
Well, order. You know what? At least you could do is thank the Opposition House Leader for putting an end to this particular point of order. Because I think we can all agree on both sides of the House that the 20 minutes that we'll never get back in our lives sorting out points of orders that's 20 minutes for all of our lives that we will never get back. Nonetheless, let's soldier on. The next point of order was at or about 11:01. Called by somebody. Who called the point? Okay, the
government bench has called this point of order, and in light of our reconciliation, we are also going to withdraw this point of order.
And we thank the government deputy House Leader for that. The last one, I hope, at or about 11:12, it occurs to me. Sounds like the opposition called one. Okay. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I called this point of order the government House Leader in responding to the member from Calgary Edgemont across the 3 questions, but particularly at this time. Under 23J, very deliberately, chose to just insult the member and the question. In this case, I wrote down incoherent thoughts as a keyword for myself, but Mr. Speaker, if you review the blues, I think you will see that it is nothing but insults directed towards the member of Edgemont who is asking important and relevant questions. I think it is unparliamentary to respond in that way, personal attacks rather than policy debate, but I do not have the benefit of the blues, and I look forward to your ruling.
Did you, Honourable Opposite, did you complete your argument? I did. Okay, because thought I heard some cross-talk, which is not welcome and doesn't help this process. The Honourable Government House Leader.
I would disagree with the Leader, and I apologize. I disagree with the Opposition House Leader. We have already discussed this. I do feel that the question being asked at the time was actually a slew of insults thrown at the government writ large, so I responded in a way that ultimately the member might find offensive. So if the member was offended, then I will withdraw and apologize as well.
So what we've witnessed here, something we could have witnessed during question period, was a little give and take on each side. We could have witnessed less insulting and demeaning language. We could have witnessed a lot of better, but we didn't. Nonetheless, we're at the end of points of order. And hopefully we'll have, before we go to question period again, when we have a few weeks without one another, we'll be able to consider the way in which we address one another. Now it is time for orders of the day. And first up is the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Her Honour, the Honourable the Lieutenant Governor, will now attend upon the Assembly.
Sergeant at Arms, admit Her Honour, the Honourable the Lieutenant Governor.
Please be seated.
May it please Her Honor, the Legislative Assembly has, at its present sitting, passed certain bills, to which, and in the name of the Legislative Assembly, I respectfully request Your Honor's assent.
So I thought that today, at the end of the spring sitting, I would take this opportunity to address all of you, our elected officials, as you head back to your constituencies, and I hope you'll take time for yourselves and to be with your loved ones, and also time to reflect. And you know, it's not often that I have not given royal assent in the chamber for a while now. So this is very special for me, to be here in the chamber, to give royal assent, and also to address you or to say a few things, if that's okay, Mr. Speaker. Yeah.
Your Honor,
that's okay.
You can do whatever you like.
Okay, so thank you, really. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to address the Assembly. So I want to begin by thanking all of you. All of you are elected officials, whichever side of the aisle you sit on. Thank you for the work you do every single day. I also want you to, if you could please, express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to all your staff here at the legislature and in your constituency offices, and all the volunteers who support you as you work hard every day, and most importantly, your families and your loved ones who make sacrifices and support you every day as all of you endeavor to make life better for all Albertans. Earlier, in May, I was delighted to attend the current and former MLA spring reception, and which was actually hosted by our Honourable Speaker and organized by the Alberta Association of Former MLAs. And for me, in this position, it was truly heartwarming to see former and present MLAs there, talking to one another and networking with one another, regardless of political affiliations. For me to see that was truly, truly heartwarming. So now I'd like to quote something. In 2005, during Alberta's centennial celebrations, Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II sat on this very spot, on this very throne, in this very chamber, and said, and I quote, "During a previous visit 32 years ago, I said, I want the crown in Canada to represent everything that is the best and most admired in the Canadian ideal. I will continue to do my best to make it so during my lifetime. I hope you will all continue to give me your help at this task." I would like to repeat these words today, as together we continue to build a country that remains the envy of the world. End quote. May I end by saying that while we are not perfect, we still remain the envy of the world, not least because of our inclusivity and the opportunity we accord to each and every person who calls this place home to both attain and to give back of their fullest potential. Thank you to each one of you for the role that you play individually and collectively in this process. And I wish you all the very best. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Your Honour, the following are the titles of the bills to which Your Honour's assent is prayed. Bill 18, Safeguards for Last Resort Termination of Life Act. Bill 22, Animal Protection Amendment Act 2026. Bill 24, Alberta Whiskey Act. Bill 25, an act to remove politics and ideology from classrooms and amend the Education Act 2026. Bill 26, Immigration Oversight Act. Bill 27, Financial Statutes Amendment Act 2026. Bill 28, Municipal Affairs and Housing Statutes Amendment Act 2026. Bill 29, Health Statutes Amendment Act 2026. Bill 30, Expedited 120-Day Approvals Act. Bill 31, Red Tape Reduction Statutes Amendment Act 2026. Bill 32, Electoral Boundaries Commission Amendment Act 2026. Bill 207, Primary Provincial Industries Recognition Statutes Amendment Act 2026. Bill PR1, the Ranchmen's Club Ordinance Amendment Act 2026. Bill PR2, Prairie Bible Institute Amendment Act 2026. These are the bills to which Your Honour's assent is prayed. In His Majesty's name, Her Honour, the Honourable the Lieutenant Governor, doth assent to these bills.
representative will be back shortly, and we'll conclude. Members, just before I recognize the Honourable Government House Leader, I'd just like to briefly wish everyone a good break. For those at home, the members here have not stopped working till fall, but rather they're doing the work that we do away from here. They'll be out talking to their constituents, returning phone calls, and I sincerely hope taking some vacation along the way. And I wish you all the well with that. And the thought I will offer is we're all honourable members, and while this may be a competitive environment, we all were duly elected by the 5 million or so people in Alberta to represent them, which we've done here honourably over the last few weeks, and I know we'll do that when we come back. I want to thank everybody for their hard work, their loyalty to the people that elected them and to Alberta, and wish everybody a very happy, healthy, successful time until we meet here again. At this point, I would like to represent the Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for your comments. They are well made, well received. We have come to that time of the session, but before I do make anything final, I do want to make a couple notes. First, notes of thank you. First to the Lieutenant Governor for her service to this province and for her coming in today to do royal assent. That was lovely. I also want to thank the table officers for their diligent service in this chamber after hours and hours of debate. Building staff who keep this building running even when we're not here. Those who work at Hansard, the pages, those who are sticking around, and also congratulations to those who have graduated out of the program. I want to thank the Sergeant at Arms and the Legislative Assembly security staff for keeping us safe in this building. We often don't know all the things that happen here, but I know they do, and grateful for their service. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you, and I also want to thank your office for your diligent work here, keeping everyone and everything in order and keeping this thing moving. I also want to thank the Leader of the Opposition for his leadership through this session and for his work leading his own caucus, and I also want to thank the Opposition House Leader for her diligent work, someone I hold in very high regard. And with that, I also want to thank the Opposition Caucus as well. We may disagree on many things, but what we do not disagree on is we want to always put Alberta first, and that's who we represent, and that's who we serve. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank the Premier for her diligent leadership in the Government Caucus. And before I adjourn, I want to say one thing. I had a phone call this morning with my kids before they went to school, and they said, "We missed you, Dad." And it was a humble reminder, but a powerful one, that while life goes on back home without us, we are missed. And so, to all members of the Assembly, I want to thank your families. Your families support you. We could not be here doing what we do, the important work we do, without the support of those who are back home waiting for us to return safely. So I ask all members to please do that. Return home safely, wherever that may be. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I want to advise the Assembly that the business of the 2026 spring sitting is now concluded.
Honourable members, pursuant to the 2026 sessional calendar, the Assembly now stands adjourned until October 27, 2026.